In a galaxy on the brink, humanity's lone voice warns of a cosmic terror in Void Quadrant, mocked by alien warlords. Ambassador Holt's chilling prophecy unfolds as the Voidwatcher awakens, devouring fleets and threatening all existence. Can Earth's hidden might prevail? Dive into the epic saga. Read on. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more thrilling stories and inspire us to create even more captivating content.
The grand chamber of the Galactic Concord's Nexus Hall buzzed with anticipation as Ambassador Jonas Holt stepped forward, his silhouette sharp against the gleaming spires of alien architecture. The high vaulted ceilings, adorned with shimmering holographic projections, cast an ethereal glow across the room. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy, beings of every size, shape, and hue, sat in their seats, their glowing eyes fixed on the human diplomat. Holt, a seasoned voice of Earth's defiance, stood before them, unwavering. The Concord was a council of supposed equals, yet Earth's presence, despite its technological prowess, had always been dismissed as insignificant. Today, Holt was about to shatter that illusion. He cleared his throat, his voice resonating with the weight of centuries of human history. "Stay out of Void Quadrant," he began, his words crisp and deliberate, "or face annihilation." A ripple of laughter cascaded through the chamber, echoing off the polished marble. Warlord Krazhul, his massive form draped in obsidian armor, snorted derisively. His voice boomed. "Annihilation? From humans? Your fleets are barely a whisper compared to our might." Holt's eyes burned with intensity. He did not flinch. "Humanity has tamed worse than you can imagine. Ignore us, and you'll beg for our mercy." The room fell silent, the confidence in his voice palpable. As if his words were etched in stone, the Concord's leaders exchanged mocking glances. But Holt didn't budge. His fingers tightened slightly around the edge of the podium, revealing the strength of his resolve. The human diplomat stepped back. His warning had been given, but the consequence of ignorance loomed, heavier now than ever. As Holt exited the chamber, his boots clicked purposefully across the hall's immaculate floors. Outside, the future waited, an abyss of danger. Yet humanity's unyielding spirit would be its only defense. This was just the beginning. Chapter 2. The Voidwatcher's Warning. On Mars. At Red Spire Outpost, the air was thick with the hum of high-tech equipment, the walls lined with sleek, metallic consoles. The outpost was humanity's most advanced facility, a beacon of human ingenuity, perched on the edge of the Martian wilderness. Inside the central command room, Dr. Zara, Lena Voss sat at her station, her eyes fixed on the screen before her, her mind racing as she analyzed the strange signals emanating from Void Quadrant. For weeks, the signals had been increasing in frequency and complexity. At first, they were faint whispers, anomalies that were easily dismissed. But now, they were unmistakable. The patterns were too deliberate to be random. Something, or someone, was listening. Voss tapped at her console, activating a series of filters to isolate the signal's core frequency. A waveform danced across the screen, its amplitude spiking as the signal grew stronger. The message was chillingly simple, yet filled with an unsettling resonance. "We see you." Her heart skipped a beat as she replayed the message, this time filtering it through the quantum decoder. A shiver ran down her spine. The signal was not just a message, it was alive. It was adapting. She had seen the reports, the earlier warnings from Earth's military command about the Voidwatcher, the ancient entity rumored to be lurking in Void Quadrant. But this was something else. "It's learning," Voss murmured, her voice slow but filled with awe. She reached for the intercom, her voice urgent as she relayed her findings to Commander Zara Kane on Europa. "Commander, it's not just an entity. It's aware. It knows we're listening." Kane's voice crackled over the comms, sharp and cold. "Damn it, Voss. This is exactly what we feared. Humanity's warning was just the beginning. We need to prepare for impact, now. Voss keyed in a command, and the holographic interface flickered to life, displaying a 3D map of Void Quadrant. The deeper she zoomed, the more it became apparent that the void was not empty. It was alive, pulsating, shifting, waiting. In the quiet of the command room, Voss knew one thing for certain. The Voidwatcher had awakened, and now it was watching them. Chapter 3. The Doomed Incursions. The vast expanse of Void Quadrant loomed on the holographic display, a swirling maelstrom of dark energy and pulsating gravity wells. Krazhul, the warlord of the Vorgan Dominion, stood before his fleet's command center, a towering figure in his obsidian armor, his cold eyes fixed on the projection. His fleet, 36 dreadnoughts strong, glittered like silver specters against the black void of space. Krazhul was a commander who had never known defeat, and today he was about to test the claims of the human ambassador. "The humans fear nothing," he muttered, his voice a deep growl. "We will take what is ours." The mission was simple: push into Void Quadrant, seize any resources, and establish dominance over the sector. The Concord had dismissed the human warning, laughing at their primitive fleets. Krazhul intended to prove that the Vorgan Dominion was superior, that their might would be enough to conquer the so-called danger of Void Quadrant. "Ready the fleet," he ordered with a wave of his hand, signaling his officers to begin the jump sequence. "We're going in." The dreadnoughts powered up, their massive engines roaring to life, the heart of each ship glowing with the raw energy of their FTL drives. The fleet moved in tight formation, their guns charged, their shields reinforced. But as they entered the event horizon of Void Quadrant, something shifted, something wrong. Within seconds, the ships began to vanish, one by one. No warning, no explosion, just silence. The first ship, the Vorgan Wrath, lost all contact with the fleet command. A simple transmission blinked out. "We have lost." And then it was gone. Krazhul's eyes widened. "Report." But there was no response. No ship. No signal. The vast black expanse swallowed the mighty fleet, leaving only the echoes of their transmission. "What is happening?" Krazhul barked. Panic crept into his voice. For the first time in centuries, his hands clenched into fists as his bridge officers scrambled to regain control. But it was futile. The remaining ships were next: Vorgon's Edge, Thunderstrike, and Iron Fist, all swallowed by the void. Within minutes, 36 mighty ships were reduced to nothing. The darkness of Void Quadrant had consumed them, without a trace. On Europa's Citadel base, Commander Zara Kane watched, grim satisfaction on her face. The incoming data from the fleet's disappearance streamed onto her command terminal. She had known this would happen. She had been preparing for this moment for years. The warnings, the technology humanity had crafted, had always been more than just words. The human warnings were clear, Kane muttered. Now, they'll understand why humanity's resolve can't be ignored. But as the last transmission from the Vorgan fleet fizzled out, the faintest whisper crackled through the communications network. An alien voice, barely audible, "It watches." And in that moment, Kane realized the Voidwatcher had stirred, and it was learning. Chapter 4. Humanity's Hidden Might. In the heart of Earth's most secretive military complex, the Deep Space Command Center hummed with purpose. Nestled beneath the surface of a mountain range, far from prying eyes, humanity's greatest technological marvels were unveiled for the first time. On screen, the vast and intricate network of satellites and cloaked beacons flared to life. This was no ordinary defensive system. This was Earth's best-kept secret, designed to protect humanity from the very thing that now threatened to consume the galaxy. Ambassador Holt stood beside Commander Zara Kane, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "This is the containment grid," he explained, his voice unwavering, filled with the weight of humanity's unyielding resolve. It's been in place for over 200 years, constructed in secrecy, designed to contain what cannot be understood. The grid spanned across Void Quadrant, a sprawling network of 87 satellites, each one equipped with quantum jammers and graviton emitters. Their primary function was simple: to prevent the Voidwatcher's awareness from extending beyond its slumber. Humanity had discovered the entity's existence when an exploratory mission, long ago, had crossed into the quadrant. Only one survivor had returned, and his raving words, "The thing that sees," had forever altered humanity's understanding of the cosmos. Kane's fingers danced over the controls, activating the network's core protocols. "We've kept it dormant, but if we want to stop this threat, we need to wake it up." Just enough to remind them of what we're facing. A series of visual alerts blinked on the screen as Kane initiated the protocols. The grid's energy output surged, sending pulses through the heart of Void Quadrant. The satellites began to hum with power, each one cloaking itself within subspace frequencies. They were preparing to send the Voidwatcher a message, one that would let it know that humanity had not forgotten its ancient adversary. "I hope they understand now," Kane murmured, watching the system activate. She paused for a moment, her eyes narrowing. "We've been holding the line for too long. It's time for the galaxy to learn that Earth isn't afraid of the unknown." Outside, in the vastness of space, the energy pulse rippled through Void Quadrant. The silence was deafening. And then, a faint voice, an alien whisper, echoed across the void. "You were warned." Chapter 5. The Voidwatcher Awakens. The tension in the command room was palpable as Dr. Lena Voss stared at the data, streaming across her display. The faint signals from Void Quadrant had now escalated into full-fledged waves of energy, each pulse vibrating with an unnatural resonance. It was happening faster than they had anticipated. The Voidwatcher, the ancient entity that had remained dormant for centuries, was waking, and humanity's containment protocols, though formidable, were barely enough to hold it back. Voss typed furiously, her fingers a blur over the holographic console. The strange patterns in the data intensified, spiraling out of control. "It's adapting," she muttered under her breath, her voice thick with disbelief. The Voidwatcher wasn't just responding to the containment pulses. It was learning, evolving with each new signal. On her screen, the spatial distortions in Void Quadrant began to warp, the light from distant stars bending unnaturally. "We're losing control," she said, her tone now urgent. She quickly fired off a transmission to Commander Zara Kane on Europa. "The Voidwatcher is aware of us. It's no longer passive." Kane's voice crackled through the comms, sharp and focused. "Keep the grid steady. Voss, we can't afford to lose it now. Activate the secondary jammers. We can't let it expand beyond the quadrant." The comms went silent for a moment, but the tension was unbearable. Then the entire base seemed to tremble as the primary containment satellites released a series of low-frequency pulses. The energy wave shot through space, aimed directly at Void Quadrant, the sheer power of it sending shockwaves across the stars. A moment of stillness lingered. Then it happened. A blinding flash erupted from the heart of Void Quadrant, and Voss recoiled from the screen. She blinked in disbelief as a massive psychic wave surged toward them, nearly knocking out her systems. The ship's shields, barely holding, buckled under the assault. Voss's heart raced as the data stream showed the unmistakable truth. The Voidwatcher was learning to fight back. The holo interfaces flickered with static, and the room went dark. The vastness of Void Quadrant was no longer just a place of silence. It had become a battlefield. The psychic pulses were now directed, targeting their most vulnerable spots. Kane's voice broke through the chaos. "It's no longer just a warning. We've stirred a god. It's coming." The last satellite in the containment grid blinked out, a signal that humanity's hold on the Voidwatcher had finally slipped. The entity was awake, and it was no longer interested in being caged. Chapter 6. Humanity's last gamble, Starbreaker. Earth's final hope gleamed under the sterile lights of the deep space launch bay. The sleek, crewless warship Starbreaker sat suspended within its containment chamber, its obsidian hull shimmering with a dark energy all its own. This was not just a ship. It was humanity's last desperate gamble against an enemy that had already decimated fleets 10 times its size. Commander Zara Kane stood at the heart of the operations center, her arms crossed, eyes fixed on the projection. The Starbreaker had been years in the making, crafted from alloys sourced from the deepest cores of dead stars. Designed to withstand the impossible, its hull was laced with adaptive quantum shields, its weapons were unparalleled, and its core was powered by a synthetic singularity, an artificial black hole that could release a burst of energy capable of splitting a planet. At her command, the Starbreaker would enter Void Quadrant, where the Voidwatcher now waited, alive, aware, and deadly. Is the quantum core stable? Kane's voice cut through the tense silence. Yes, Commander. Core levels are at 98% capacity, replied Lieutenant Callum, his eyes glued to the console before him. We're ready for launch. Kane took one last look at the ship. This is it. If we don't succeed, Earth will fall. The galaxy will fall. With a sharp motion, she activated the launch sequence. The Starbreaker shot forward from its docking bay with a powerful thrust. Its engines humming in perfect synchronization, the warship blasted through space at faster than light speeds, guided by an AI system designed to counteract every move the Voidwatcher might make. Every pulse of energy, every shift in the fabric of space, human technology was ready for this moment. They had learned from the first encounter with the entity and adapted with every step. As the ship entered the dark expanse of Void Quadrant, Kane's heart raced. The screen in front of her showed the vast emptiness, a cosmic abyss stretching infinitely in all directions. Then, without warning, the energy in the space ahead flared, spatial anomalies shifted, and the Voidwatcher reacted. An enormous psychic wave slammed into the Starbreaker, its shields flickering violently as the ship absorbed the force. For a heartbeat, the entire warship shuddered, its systems locking up. A blaring alarm echoed through the chamber. Kane held her breath, praying their defenses would hold. Shields at 40% and falling, shouted Callum. We've got one shot at this. Kane slammed her fist onto the console, activating the final sequence. Fire. The Starbreaker unleashed a colossal burst of energy from its core, a blast so intense it split the very fabric of space. The rift in Void Quadrant flickered, a tear in the cosmos itself, as the ship's power overloaded, sending a wave of energy that lit the black void like a second sun. For a brief moment, the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath, but then, as quickly as the explosion appeared, it was gone. The Starbreaker vanished into the depths, its final transmission a chilling whisper. It sleeps, but it dreams of us. Chapter 7. The Sacrifice of Starbreaker. Silence hung thick in the operations room as the final transmission from the Starbreaker echoed across Earth's command center. The brilliant burst of energy, the last desperate strike, had shattered the tranquil void of Void Quadrant, but now, that silence turned oppressive. Commander Zara Kane stood motionless before the screen, her hands clenched at her sides. The Starbreaker had executed its mission with flawless precision, unleashing a wave of energy that could have annihilated 1,000 fleets. But now, it was gone, vanished into the abyss of the quadrant, its final words haunting the air. It sleeps, but it dreams of us. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple as she spoke, her voice strained but calm. Get me the status on the fleet. Now. Lieutenant Callum's fingers flew across his console, the display flickering with incoming data. Commander, the energy pulse has created an anomaly. Something is destabilizing the region. We're losing contact with all recon drones. His voice faltered for a moment. Starbreaker's signal is gone. Completely. Kane's jaw tightened. The Starbreaker had been humanity's ultimate weapon, its design an unmatched feat of engineering, its power calculated to disrupt even the Voidwatcher's unyielding grip. But now, it was clear. The entity had absorbed the ship, its technology becoming one with the void itself. The magnitude of their gamble, their hope, had failed. Patch me through to Dr. Voss. Now, Kane barked. Moments later, the screen shifted, revealing Doc, Lena Voss on Mars. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with the weight of the revelation. Commander, the Voidwatcher. It's not just surviving, it's evolving. It's using our tech against us. Kane's heart dropped. The Starbreaker, humanity's shining hope, had become a conduit. The Voidwatcher, that ancient terror, was now wielding the very technology Earth had created. Then, it's not over. We prepare. We fight. Kane's words were resolute. The galaxy had underestimated them before, and now they would face the consequences. But for now, one question remained. Could humanity survive the monster it had inadvertently empowered? Chapter 8. The Voidwatcher's Revenge. The galaxy was trembling. Void Quadrant had become the epicenter of a cosmic disaster, a blackened abyss from which no ship dared venture. Across the galaxy, outposts and fleets went dark, their transmissions dying as quickly as they were sent. In the span of a few hours, over 47 vessels, ranging from the Elither Coalition's cruisers to the Concord's largest dreadnoughts, vanished without a trace. What remained of the fleets was only the eerie message. It remembers me. Back on Earth, Commander Zara Kane stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Her fingers hovered over the interface, scrolling through the recent disappearances. The data was overwhelming. Void Quadrant's ripple effects were destabilizing whole sectors, as if the Voidwatcher itself had awakened with a thirst for vengeance. Earth's containment system, though powerful, had been compromised. The entity now wielded human technology against them, adapting and evolving faster than anyone had anticipated. What's our status on the remaining fleet? Kane asked, her voice sharp with urgency. Lieutenant Callum's fingers danced across his console. We've managed to send a few scout ships to the affected sectors, but they're disappearing too. The anomaly is spreading at an exponential rate. Spatial anomalies, gravity distortions. It's all converging back to Void Quadrant. Kane grimaced. It's adapting. The Voidwatcher has learned how to extend its reach. The tension in the room was suffocating. On her command, Kane called up the most recent data from Mars. Dr. Lena Voss's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. She didn't need to speak for Kane to see the truth in her eyes. The entity is no longer just a passive force, Voss said, her voice cold with fear. It's feeding on the energy of everything it absorbs. Alien tech, human tech. It doesn't matter. It's becoming something else. Kane slammed her fist on the console. We've got one option left. We need to send a team into Void Quadrant now to find its core and shut it down. If we don't, the galaxy will fall into chaos. Callum looked at her, wide-eyed. And if we fail, then the galaxy ends. The screen flickered with a sudden alert. The Tempest, one of Earth's last defense fleets, had just been wiped out. Only a single transmission remained. A distorted voice from the void. It knows us. The Voidwatcher was not just a force of nature. It was a predator, and humanity had just become its prey. Chapter 9. Humanity's plan to contain. The command center on Earth was alive with a buzz of frantic energy. The last remnants of the fleets, those brave enough to be sent, were lost. In just hours, the galaxy had been plunged into chaos. The Voidwatcher, a cosmic horror that had been dormant for centuries, was now awake, and humanity's greatest weapon, Starbreaker, had been absorbed by the abyss. Commander Zara Kane's eyes were locked on the holoscreen displaying a galaxy-wide map of disappearing fleets and dying transmissions. Only 28 of the 96 Concord sectors remained operational, and even they were beginning to show signs of collapse. It was clear now. The Voidwatcher wasn't just a threat to a few ships or systems. It was a threat to everything. But Kane refused to accept defeat. Her hand hovered over the button that would initiate Earth's final defense plan. One that had been in the making for decades. A plan kept so secret that only a handful of people on the planet knew it existed. She turned to her team. Activate the Alpha containment protocols. The room fell silent as her words echoed. On the screens, the interstellar containment grid blinked into action. But this wasn't just any grid. Humanity had devised a trap within Void Quadrant itself. An intricate network of quantum destabilizers and gravimetric flux generators, capable of altering the very fabric of space-time. But this wasn't just about preventing the Voidwatcher's spread. This was humanity's last attempt to force it back into slumber. Callum, a young but seasoned officer, glanced at the data streaming in from Mars. "Commander, the pulse emitters are synchronized. We have a 72% chance of success." "Not good enough," Kane responded, the steel in her voice unshaken. "I want 95% confidence." "Recalculate." The tension was unbearable, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. This wasn't just about humanity surviving. It was about keeping the entire galaxy from collapsing into the Voidwatcher's grasp. The final sequence activated, a hum vibrating through the entire complex. As a pulse of energy rippled across Void Quadrant, the skies above Earth darkened. The first blast of energy shot into the heart of the abyss. Its target, the Voidwatcher itself, the ripple of energy was visible. A distortion, a pulse of blinding light. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Kane's fingers gripped the console. It begins. Chapter 10, The Final Stand. Void Quadrant's defeat. The tension in the command room was suffocating. A storm was brewing at the edge of human existence, and Commander Zara Kane was at the helm, staring at the digital map of Void Quadrant with grim determination. The containment grid had been activated, and Earth's final gambit was set into motion. All 87 quantum destabilizers, each capable of generating enough gravitational force to bend space itself, were now primed and aimed directly at the heart of the Voidwatcher's lair. "Ready the fleet," Kane barked, her voice steely. "We don't know how much time we have. I want every ship at full power." Lieutenant Callum's hands moved rapidly over the console, syncing the fleet's weapon systems with Earth's remaining defenses. The digital readouts confirmed what they feared. The Voidwatcher had already adapted to the earlier containment pulse, absorbing the quantum jammers into its growing power. The real threat was that the Voidwatcher was learning from each attack, evolving faster than they could stop it. Kane's mind raced through the countless contingencies. She had known the risks. This was never going to be easy. But this time, humanity had a secret weapon. Hidden within the fleet's core was the Siphon Cannon, a new weapon that drew power from the event horizon of black holes. This was their last shot. Launch all available ships. "Deploy Siphon Cannon in 3 minutes," Kane ordered. As the fleet powered up, the massive starships, composed of the last remnants of Earth's might, began to move toward Void Quadrant's deadly center. The starships fired ionized beams of energy, piercing through the black void toward the ever-expanding energy core of the Voidwatcher. Each blast carried humanity's hopes and fears. With a final commanding gesture, Kane activated the Siphon Cannon. It fired a concentrated pulse that stretched over 3,000 kilometers, an artificial singularity in motion. A massive burst of energy erupted, shaking Void Quadrant to its core. The Voidwatcher, no longer a passive force, recoiled in the face of humanity's ingenuity. The screen blinked, a fleeting moment of calm. The Voidwatcher's energy flared, struggling against the blast, but ultimately, the pulse overwhelmed it. For the first time in centuries, the cosmic force began to collapse in on itself. The galaxy held its breath. Chapter 11, The Voidwatcher's Final Warning. The aftermath of the pulse was a deafening silence. The fleet hovered at the outer edge of Void Quadrant, its weapons powered down and shields raised, waiting for some sign that their gambit had succeeded. But the calm was deceptive. An unsettling stillness blanketed the command center, even with the siphon cannon's devastating pulse. Something about the void felt wrong. Commander Zara Kane stared at the holo display in front of her, the data flickering erratically. The energy surge from the siphon cannon had made an impact. Void Quadrant was now teeming with gravitational distortions, but the Voidwatcher had not yet been vanquished. Instead, its presence seemed to pulse with increasing power. The entity had adapted again, just as it always had. "Status report," Kane demanded, her voice steady but laced with anxiety. Lieutenant Callum quickly scanned the data. "Commander, the gravitational anomalies are spreading. Our containment grid is holding, but just barely. The Voidwatcher's energy output is increasing exponentially. It's learning from the attack." Kane clenched her fists, a sense of urgency gripping her chest. She had known the risk. This was never meant to be an immediate victory. The Voidwatcher was a cosmic force, too ancient and powerful to be obliterated with a single strike, but humanity was running out of time. Suddenly, an alarm blared across the room, and the screen flashed with a new transmission, a voice, distorted and chilling. "The others must leave, or all will fade." Kane's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a warning. It was a direct message from the Voidwatcher, a declaration that humanity's interference had reached its threshold. It was no longer just a passive force. It was now fully aware of them, fully in control. "What does it mean?" Callum whispered, his face pale as he looked at the unreadable message. "It means we've crossed a line," Kane replied, her voice hardening. "And now we either contain it completely, or we prepare for extinction." With the Voidwatcher now fully aware, its next move was imminent. The galaxy had only one hope left: Earth's final stand. Chapter 12. The Legacy of Humanity. The final battle had begun, and Earth's last defense was in motion. The fleet, battered but resolute, moved toward Void Quadrant with all the force humanity could muster. The remaining ships were not large in number. Only 12 ships were still operational, each one equipped with humanity's most advanced technology, all deployed to execute a mission that could either save the galaxy or condemn it to the Voidwatcher's wrath. Commander Zara Kane stood at the helm of the flagship, Endurance, her mind razor-sharp. Her eyes scanned the final readouts. The gravitational distortions in Void Quadrant were accelerating at a rate of 7.2% every 30 minutes. The anomalies were closing in, and the pulse from the siphon cannon had triggered the Voidwatcher's final response, an intense and growing psychic wave that targeted the human fleet. Yet there was still hope. Human ingenuity could outsmart even the deadliest of forces. "Activate the phase cloaking devices," Kane ordered, her voice unwavering. These cloaking systems were based on technology, scavenged from the first encounters with the Voidwatcher. When fully engaged, the fleet would become undetectable to the entity, but it was a risk. Phase cloaking required immense energy, and the fleet would have only enough power to maintain it for 20 minutes. They had one shot to get close enough to the heart of Void Quadrant. The ships flickered, and for a moment, they vanished from detection, disappearing into the abyss. The fleet moved as one, silent but powerful, as they neared the epicenter of the Voidwatcher's domain. But just as they neared the critical zone, the Voidwatcher's psychic pulse surged, a wave of energy that struck the fleet with devastating force. Endurance shuddered, its shields flickering, and the surrounding ships' hulls groaned under the pressure. Then it happened. A massive, blinding flash of energy erupted from the center of Void Quadrant, so intense that it briefly collapsed the surrounding space. The fleet, cloaked and out of sight, unleashed their final coordinated assault, the energy from their weapons combining into a concentrated burst. The psychic barrier surrounding the Voidwatcher began to crack, its power fading. The moment hung in the balance. Then, the unthinkable happened. The Voidwatcher began to shrink. For the first time in centuries, The galaxy felt like it could breathe again. The enemy, for now, was contained. Kane's voice was the final echo. We warned them. Humanity never breaks.